Welcome to the Explainer. So, for generations, we've had this dream, right? Colonizing Mars. But what would it actually take to live there? I mean, really survive. Today, we're going to separate that sci-fi dream from the harsh scientific reality. All right, let's get right into it. Why are we so completely obsessed with Mars? I mean, it's captured our imagination for centuries. We've sent robots, we've written countless stories, billionaires are literally planning trips. But beyond all that fiction, what's the real story? What's driving this dream of settling the red planet? This dream, it's about so much more than just adventure. It's really driven by two incredibly powerful human impulses. First, that classic desire to explore and innovate, but there's also something deeper, this instinct to make sure our species survives in the long run. And make no mistake, this is not some fringe idea we're talking about. You've got proponents like engineer Robert Zubrin and groups like the Mars Society who've been making a serious case for this for decades. They frame it as the next necessary giant leap for humanity. And look, the arguments are pretty compelling. I mean, having a second home for humanity, that could be the ultimate insurance policy against some catastrophe here on Earth. Plus, it's a pristine laboratory for scientific discovery. It could even spark a whole new independent branch of human civilization. It's this grand, incredible vision of expansion and survival. But, and this is a big but, this dream runs headfirst into a really brutal reality. Because Mars, it isn't just some fixer-upper planet. It is an actively, incredibly hostile world. And when you look at the numbers, they're just staggering. Honestly, calling it uninhabitable is a massive understatement. Okay, so let's start with the air, or really the lack of it. The Martian atmosphere is so thin, we're talking less than 1% of Earth's, that it's way below something called the Armstrong limit. And what that means is, at that pressure, water boils at human body temperature. So without a pressurized suit, your blood would literally boil. Yeah. And the challenges just keep piling on. The gravity is only about 38% of what we're used to, which would just wreak havoc on your bones and muscles over time. The air, it's not just thin. It's a toxic, unbreathable mix of carbon dioxide. And then there's the temperature, an average of a frigid minus 63 degrees Celsius. Absolutely brutal. And on top of all that, there's the radiation. See, Earth has this amazing magnetic shield, our magnetosphere, that protects us. Mars, it has almost nothing. That means the surface is just constantly getting blasted with cosmic rays. The radiation dose is insane, 2.5 times higher than what astronauts get on the International Space Station. That dramatically increases your cancer risk, making any kind of long-term stay a really dangerous gamble. And if you thought that was it, nope. The very ground beneath your feet is a threat. The soil is full of these things called perchlorates, chemicals that are hazardous to us. And water? Yeah, there's some water ice, but it's incredibly hard to get to, making Mars drier than even the most arid deserts we have here on Earth. So when you add up this whole list of lethal challenges, it becomes pretty clear. Just staying alive on Mars would be a monumental technological achievement. We'd basically have to build a tiny bubble of Earth from scratch in the middle of this hostile world. So that's the big question, right? How could we even begin to survive? How do you live in a place that seems like it's actively trying to kill you at every turn? Well, the only way is to create a completely artificial, totally self-contained ecosystem. A tiny piece of home shielded from that barren wasteland just outside the door. Survival would hinge on this incredibly complex, self-sustaining toolkit. First, you need artificial habitats, right? Pressurized vessels to give you breathable air. But to keep those going, you need to extract resources, mine for ice to get water, oxygen, even fuel. And that requires a ton of power, probably from solar or maybe even nuclear, especially to get through those planet-wide dust storms. Then you use that power to grow food in advanced greenhouses and run the life support systems that have to recycle every single drop of water and every breath of air. It's a closed loop where if one thing fails, everything could fail. Now, the biggest, most ambitious solution is something called terraforming. This is the idea of basically rebuilding the entire planet's ecosystem to make it like Earth. We're talking creating a whole new atmosphere, raising the temperature, the whole shebang. It's an incredible concept, but for now, it's a challenge so vast that it's still deep in the realm of science fiction. Okay, but let's just say we figure all of that out. We solve all the immense technical challenges. we're still left with some really profound questions. But this time, they're about ethics. Just because we can go, does that mean we should?
Even the language we use to talk about this is a huge debate. Is it a settlement, which sounds like building a new community? Or is it colonization, a word that carries all this heavy historical baggage? Critics point out that framing Mars as a new frontier just continues that old narrative of colonialism and manifest destiny, a story that maybe we should leave behind here on Earth.
And that opens up a whole host of other tricky questions. For instance, who owns Mars? The Outer Space Treaty from 1967 says no country can claim it, but what about a private company? Then there's planetary protection. What if we accidentally contaminate Mars and wipe out some undiscovered native life? And the flip side of that is even scarier. What if explorers bring some unknown Martian microbe back to Earth? And maybe the biggest question of all, is this whole Plan B for humanity idea just a dangerous distraction that keeps us from solving the problems we have right here on planet A?
So, at the end of the day, we're left with this massive question. Is Mars our lifeboat, a necessary next step for humanity's long-term survival? Or is it a dangerous delusion, as some critics, like the UK's Astronomer Royal, have called it, something that distracts us from the immense, maybe insurmountable challenges right here at home? It's a huge debate, and for now, the question is still wide open.